Subdivisions.
In the high schools. In the shopping malls.
After our first, or really my first, foray into anything musical, I figured it's the perfect time to cover my favorite Rush album, Signals. Track by track on here, it's almost like a ranking of my top 8 Rush songs. We have, of course, the vinyl right here from 1982. Stay tuned till the end for that. This album is one that is special not just because of the sonic appeal, but it is the beginning of the synth era, which I personally love. I know a lot of people don't love it. The imagery that it conjures up, specifically on songs like Analog Kid and Subdivisions, the relatability of songs like Losing It. If it's not number 1 for most people, which it is for me, it's definitely top 3 for most people, I'd say.
Before this, Geddy was kind of like doing synth in the background, like a little bit here and there, and then he was like, all right, let's go full bore. When we watched that documentary, Alex Lifeson,
He's like, fuck that.
He's like, no more keyboards, this is awful.
So without further bullshit, let's get into track 1, Subdivisions. Subdivisions.
In the high schools.
Doing a cover of a song gives you the ability to really take a look at the anatomy of it. I always thought it was one of my favorite Rush songs, but now listening to it for the 80 millionth time, it's still one of my favorite Rush songs. The opening bass notes on the keyboard give you an introduction not just to the song, but to the beginning of the Rush synth era. I'm a huge fan of the OBX instrument, which, fun fact for people who don't know, people who aren't keyboard players, is the same instrument that Van Halen used on Jump.
Classic. When you do a cover, either you'll have a better appreciation for it or you won't. And not when it comes to Rush. Whenever you play a Rush song, it's either this is a fantastic or how in God's name do I play this? Rush has all these different time signatures. That was the toughest thing for me because I've always played 4/4 signatures, and then you go into Rush where it's like 17/4 and 1,502 and 6.
So that's cool you brought that up, because this song, actually, I can post a picture of our project in the video here. But it goes from, I believe, 7/8. It starts the song with 7/8. Then it goes to 4/4 for a nice chunk. Then it goes back to 7/8. Then it goes back to 4/4, and then the
3/4, I think.
Yeah, the hook is in 3/4. The way that I went and covered it is I just memorized the shit out of it, so I didn't have to worry about the time signatures. I just listened to it 80 million times.
Me too. Yeah.
Then you get into the actual meaning, the relatability of Neil's words, talking about this kid with big dreams, but he lives like every other normal kid in the suburbs. If you want to ever make it, you feel like it kind of keeps you down.
My favorite verse is the second verse. Growing up, it all seems so one-sided. Cultural, political, whatever your parents would say, you would kind of just go with it until you get a little older. Saying opinions all provided, future pre-decided, like you gotta get this job here so you can make money and then retire, and like that's it. You can't do anything.
It's the rat race.
Yeah, the rat race. Even though it is kind of mainstream, definitely one of their best works.
I think there's a reason it's mainstream.
Because it's awesome.
Yeah.
Trying to think, because
I know he's thinking about a 10.
I am thinking about
That's
10.
what the hesitation was.
I'll go with 10. Yeah.
You go with 10. All right, good. This being my first musical foray into really anything, I played no instrument before this. I started learning in September. Having this be my first breakdown of a real song, having listened to this a million times even before we did a cover to this, the personal meaning to myself, on top of the relatability, the sonic appeal, I don't think this song will ever get old. I think it's a top 3 Rush song, so I would also have to give it a 10. You thought Subdivisions painted vivid imagery. Here we have the Analog Kid. This is almost a concept album, I'd say, because every song kind of follows through, and there's actually a theory that the Analog Kid grows up to become the digital man. That hasn't been confirmed, but I did see that was a theory on here.
The way the song ends is about how he comes home to his childhood home, and it's like it became a developed like New York City type aspect, and he doesn't really know how to feel about it.
The way he sets the scene on top of that too, I think, gives it that much more meaning, because it's almost like you're watching a play or listening to a play unfold. Sonically, one of the best, especially in the hook where he takes you into space with the synths again.
The synth, yeah. I never realized how fantastic this solo was until I saw
that video.
That video.
Dream Theater, dude. What a way to go into the second track on this album. Loses no energy. I give it a 9.
It's a 9, yeah.
It's a 9.
Keeps the energy, yeah.
A lot of fans like to shit on the lyrics of this song. If you're one of those, you're kind of totally missing the point. This was not a showcase of Neil's brilliant lyrics, which the first two were. This was more of a showcase of the band's ability. And I think you hear that right off the bat with that insane guitar riff that Alex puts down. That's almost like a faster version of the Spirit of the Radio.
The trip it brings you on is hard to describe, and it's about how chemistry works with reactions. When human individuals connect, there's a different outcome every time. That's kind of what they were going for. So then they used actual chemistry terms for the lyrics, which is why some people were like, oh, what the hell, like, this is lame.
It was kind of disappointing also to see what Alex thought about the synths in here, because how well they work together. You have the kind of backup melody almost over Alex's lead. I think that was a really special combination, so it was shocking to see that in the documentary, how he actually felt about it. Well, Alex, I enjoyed it, so I give it a 9.
An 8. I do like synth. I think it's cool, but I'm always going to be more towards the traditional guitar, bass, and drums.
Because Motorhead and
and
Priest.
You start off with Neil, and I'm like, holy crap, this is awesome. I want to listen to Neil's part. And then Geddy comes in and steals my total attention. You have Alex doing the guitar solo, and then you have Geddy doing his own version, which matches the solo, but it's also something different. I love the break, right whether you think the song is going to end, and then it's just bass by itself.
I actually thought Alex was one of the standouts on this whole thing. I think this whole song, while Neil obviously kicks it off with his fantastic drum fill, the real showcase in this one is how well Alex and Geddy work together. Because in most of these rock songs, you know, the bass kind of just follows the guitar. Or they do that. They kind of both do their own thing, and they meld really well, and one doesn't really overpower the other.
Analog Kid ended with him coming home, seeing his city like industrialized. This one's about a sad story of a man working in a high-tech world.
Yes.
Just watching humans interact. Well, he's kind of like having a hard time making interactions with other people.
And that's where the Analog Kid theory comes from.
Yes.
Neil in the background, while his stuff may sound simple on this track, it is not. If you actually go and break down the actual song, some of the licks he hits and some of the beats that he makes in the background are ridiculous, and they sound like, oh, let me go try to play that behind the drums, but if you go, you just won't be able to get it for like 7 years. I don't think this was ever going to be a standout on this album, which is already packed, so I gave this one a 7.5.
Hurts me in the heart.
7.5 is pretty good.
No, it is. Give it an 8.5.
The Fear series is always one that really intrigued me because it really highlights, not just over one song, but in reverse chronological order, which is creative in its own right, fear, and really how it's used to control people. And I know that's really the meaning of Witch Hunt, but the whole series really carries that theme. Fear is a weapon, and I don't think that's been any more prevalent than this year.
Very true.
Neil kills it on the drums with another not in your face but tasty lick, specifically the chorus. He's not afraid of your judgment. He knows the horror is worse than your head. That part is really cool with the Oberheim synth. Again, going back, he uses the SN, I think it's called SNP filter or SNH filter, something like that. That's what gives that repeat sound. Really special, not just in the meaning but also in sonically. So I give this one an 8.
What would your favorite of all the Fear songs be?
You know, that's kind of tough, and the answer would probably change if you ask me in the next Rush video that we do. But right now, it's probably Witch Hunt. It's probably sonically the best. I think meaning-wise, they're all just about the same.
I'd have to say Witch Hunt's my favorite. That one's just, it's just cool. Their meanings, even stuff when they made in the 70s, is still like relevant today. So I gave this one a 7.5. Sorry. And I love how Neil keeps the time with I'm pretty sure it's the hi-hat. Geddy is playing this part. It's also one of their quickest songs. It took them 2 days to write this song. It's when you get to that age where you have to start seeing the world in your own viewpoints and doing things that you think is right for the world.
So you also have to take advice from the people that came before you, whether it's your parents or, you know, parent figures, but at the same time you kind of have to take that advice with a grain of salt because the world is forever changing. So you kind of have to take that advice and shape it to have it become the new world information, so that you have to become the new world man until you become the old world man again. and hopefully never the third world man. Which is also on PC now it's the developing country man.
The developing country.
The more you know.
And I love the chorus. Right after that, he does a cool bass line just to throw in your face that he's an amazing bass player. One of my favorite Rush songs. An 8.5.
The bass work is hard to deny on this one, so I probably have to give this one an 8. The Boomer Anthem.
We're gonna get some hate comments for that one.
Again, with the relatability, even though we're not really there yet, the two of us, it really makes you sit back and kind of think about how, you know, something you were phenomenal at, you're almost like it's running away from you. It's a lot easier if you were actually born blind. You don't really know what you're missing out on. You don't understand it. It doesn't compute to you. Whereas if you had the ability to see and then all of a sudden you lose it in an accident or just with age, it's a lot of a harder pill to swallow. So that's kind of how the dancer feels that he describes in this song. How she used to be this phenomenal dancer. She was the best there was. Now all of a sudden she has a hard time just going through a simple routine. You know, she's sweating like crazy. She's dragging herself across the floor. And again, like he connects for you, the blind who once could see, the bell tolls for thee, which is kind of morbid because that means you're dead. But you know, I see the connection there.
The biggest thing that was really interesting for me was I always thought that was Alex, but it was actually an electric violin.
That's funny. I actually thought it was keyboard.
You thought it was keyboard? Yeah. It's actually a guy named Ben Mink.
The emotion sonically is also captured in the song. Even if this song had no lyrics, you could tell it's something really somber and sad. The repeat, the loop of the bass notes on the synth that carry through the whole song, layered on top of the violin, which we had no idea was a violin, so we actually looked into it. This might be our next cover right here. This is a good one. I want to do that one.
Well, do we know anybody that plays the violin, or would you just use this?
I know someone who plays the keyboard, who has a violin patch on his keyboard.
You should get him on the phone. Ben Mink on the electric violin, he killed it. I've never really seen them bring outside musicians to songs. Did that extra.
Stand still.
Yeah, except for that one.
Yeah.
And I think the bridge, some are born to move the world, to live their fantasies, but most of us just dream about the things we'd like to be. Sadder still to watch it die than never have to known it.
It's kind of like, don't ever try, because then you have stuff to lose. See, if you have nothing to lose and you're just a fat animal, then just like
it's
just
also
never get off the couch, and then you don't have to lose anything.
Exactly.
There you go.
So I'd have to give it a 9.
I'd also have to give it a 9.
If you couldn't tell by the name Countdown, it's about NASA shuttle program. There also is a Florida coastline lyric in here, so I see why this is your favorite.
Shout out to Florida.
This is why your
Gang,
favorite
gang.
song. They wrote this song about their trip to Cape Canaveral.
This is actually Cape Canaveral, but yeah,
Canaveral,
go ahead.
wow.
Yeah.
Where they watched the space shuttle. So basically, this song they wrote about the awe of watching space shuttle go into space, which is actually super impressive. It really puts you in their position. Like you feel like you're watching the shuttle take off. I don't know. I couldn't really find myself putting this on repeat. I don't know how you feel.
Well, I thought this was a great example of how creative Neil is with lyricism. The reason he's the lyric writer is because he was into literature a lot. He read a lot of literature, and that often makes a great poet. But it's cool that he doesn't just write about stuff that he's read. There's a lot of that in here, mostly in that, you know, Farewell to Kings, Hemispheres era. But he writes about his own experiences too, his experience of going to Florida and seeing the rocket ship take off. The outro on this song was a great closer, the instrumental outro. Yeah. So I gave it an 8.
A 7.
We got to do the vinyl review. I almost forgot about that vinyl review. Shout out to everyone who stayed. I think I did a pretty creative job of remaking this cover.
Well, for the cover? Yeah, that was good.
The back, I thought it was cool, is the blueprint. I heard a rumor this was actually going to be the front of the album, but they just put it on the back.
Do you know why they put the dog?
Hugh Syme, or as you like to say, Hugh Smime, he did the cover for this one. And the reason he did that is because he thought it captured some of the imagery in Subdivision, in a suburb. It's like right, you have the fire hydrant, the perfect green grass that looks like one of the studio things.
Okay.
You got the dog. That's why they originally thought this would be a cool cover, but yeah, this is kind of abstract. Warren Cromartie, there's some kind of meaning to this. If you want to look at Warren Cromartie Secondary School, I forget, there's like a cool Easter egg about the name of this. I think Warren Cromartie, you know what I think it is? I think Warren Cromartie was a Toronto Blue Jays player. Son of a bitch, how does it come out? That was the top.
That's what she said.
Alright. Digital Men. Got the developing countrymen. They all have baseball positions too. I thought that was cool. Geddy is the pitcher. Alex is first base. Neil is third base. Terry Brown, the producer, is left field.
Oh, they put him in there too?
Yeah. For the first time in a while, we see it's a new... It's not the Mercury Records. It's the Fire Hydrant. Overall, my absolute favorite Rush album. Not just the imagery it conjures up, the introduction to the synth era, which I understand the gripe that some people have with it, how they might have gone too heavy on Grace Under Pressure and following albums, but I think they use it really tastefully here. They know exactly when to stop. Like you said, Subdivisions was really the only synth heavy one, and then they go into some of their traditional stuff. I think not just the sonic appeal, the meaning, the relatability, but the arrangement too. I think the way they arranged the album, the structures, the crazy time signatures on every song. This is a top 3 Rush work for me, so this is a 10.
Wow. Make sure you cue the confetti and trumpets.
Like usual.
As being part of the Holy Trinity, as being an introduction to the new synth era, and also for just having some of their best songs, I'd have to give it a 9.
Well said. And go watch our cover, please.
Yes.
Please, I'm begging you. Please go watch our fucking cover. I love you.